Very true, Signor Bain. You cannot beat someone that you can't say no to. Welcome to Married Life. We'll see you in 5 minutes, team. I know the music doesn't really suit the thumbnail.
I'm not sure if time could ever cure this mind.
Like you, Nick. G'day, mate.
Fading out of sight. You're just a star among
Hey, NK. How you doing, buddy? Hey, Stevie. Let's go, Brandon. Yes, sir. That's a chorus. Roger Ramjet, he's our man. I was born in a really big tunnel.
I've got nothing left, and the moon's dead, while the sun's sitting on its side. I'm not sure if time could ever cure this mind. As you're fading out of sight, you're just a star among the night.
Hey, team, how is our sound at the moment? Can we get some thumbs up if it sounds okay to you? We did some tweaking. Not twerking.
How can I keep on when no one sings this song? And I miss almost every line. Just trying to feel more alive.
Now, that's a lot of people hitchhiking. All right, team, well, we might as well get over these Chinese whispers. And let's get ready to welcome you, to say g'day, to introduce you to a video that we can watch tonight together to extrapolate the information and actually be able to have a little bit of common sense on the ground, as well as a source of information that you can actually give to others rather than it just be your own opinion. And I'll be ringing up one of our good people tonight. I don't know if he's ever been on here before. It's Shannon. Beautiful name for a woman, and it's an okay name for a guy. We'll call him Shannon. And I've asked him to share this experience with me tonight. He's a really good communicator, as you know, for all of those that are on the bat phone. Bam. There is people that really stand out as solid communicators, and I'd like to give you all a chance to get on here, have a voice on a platform that you support so well. Tonight we're going to be listening. G'day, Foxy, Foxy lady. We're going to be looking at the video between Jordan Peterson and Piers Morgan tonight, while listening to the voices of Shannon and Kaz. This is a picture of the video that I've made. If you've been wondering why I've been a little bit quiet, this is a video that comes out tomorrow. And this is of the sadness of what we're to expect. And basically asking the question of the 300,000, if they're able to mobilise them, how many are going to come home? It's devastating. It's sad. It's doubling down. And all we can do is sit back and watch. Right? And it's a real tough one. A real tough one. We've got a cool cat here from, not just cool cat. We've got a gentleman here from Germany at the moment, Sean RH. I live in Germany, going to protest against the war and hope things will turn out okay. Unfortunately, protesting is one of those things that often falls on deaf ears because there's too many protests for so many subjects. It's like hands out for charity these days. But it's still good to do your piece. Just do not get yourself arrested. Please, Sean, don't get yourself put in a position where you end up on some sort of list where your life can be made harder as well. G'day, team. We've also got some fantastic news here. I keep putting on the glasses, the spectacles of wisdom. Welcome, everyone. I hope everything in your life is going well. We've got, where is he? Where is the gentleman? We're looking up here. Scotty Chater. We couldn't be prouder. Grandfather is giving heaps about being a sapper. Okay. Scotty's son is about to march out. Where is it? Where's his first one? Packing bags to speak for my son. Quinn's march out on Friday. Found out big event with the Chief of the Army going to be in attendance. That's fantastic, mate. Maybe you can ask him some critical questions as well. Apparently the ghost of Kiev was all bullshit, mate. But who knows what information is coming from over that way is real or relevant or designed to be either part of a recruiting drive or, in fact, sow fear into the seed of the enemy. Make sure you go to the Victoria Hotel. Wagga Wagga is not a racial slur. It's a tidy town. It's absolutely gorgeous. The food is great. The people are nice. And it actually feels like you're in the cast of Footloose. Really good place. And if you decide that you're going to stay in the street and you've got a Anytime Fitness right beside the Victoria Hotel is Anytime Fitness. So you can go in there and scrub your balls after you've had a night sleeping in a station wagon, which is better than drink driving every day of the week. All we're going to do is quickly call Shannon here. Where is this gentleman? Here he is. And we'll get ready and watch this video so that we actually stay relevant to the conversation. Hey, Reese, how you going, mate? Good chat today. Sorry we had to get going.
G'day, mate.
Hey, Shannon, how you going?
Yeah, not too bad.
Yep, you've got a voice for radio. I said that to you today. Thank you for turning up today. Is there anything you'd like to say before we kick on? And you'll be able to hear you may not even be able to hear the verbalization of this video that's about to be up. That's going to make it tough.
Oh, that's all right. I'll try to watch it before we get it up. And
before I get it up, filthy bastard. That's what she said. Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed. I have been on once before. It breaks my heart. You don't remember?
Mate, I actually don't remember anything or anyone anymore. I don't remember half the names of the people I served with because we're only able to actually maintain a mental relationship with a certain amount of names before we're actually overpowered. And that is exactly what's happened to me. I don't know who I don't know anymore, except for my closest friends, because I've literally spoken to more than 10,000 people in the last 7 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
You got so much going on as it is now.
Yeah, mate, look, I cannot complain. I'm not in Ukraine. And before we go on with this tonight, let's just discuss one thing. How many places around the world at the moment that aren't the Ukraine, that don't have the gift of getting any focus whatsoever? Name a couple of countries for me that are absolute shit fights at the moment. Central Republic of Congo. That place never seems to be getting better. What's another one?
I mean, Solomon Islands has always seemed to be a shit show at the moment.
It definitely is not a good place for what do we call it? Hectopascals. If you go there, the heat is never ending. Humidity is what I was going for. What about Somalia? Would you like to be in Somalia at the moment?
Oh, no, I wouldn't like to be there. I wouldn't like to be in Iran either right now.
Okay, what about a dark and lonely street in Chicago or Louisiana? What about that? Probably not so much either.
Probably not so much. I think I'd probably head to Louisiana.
I've been to Louisiana. It's an extremely dangerous place. Yeah.
I just see the murder rate is pretty high right now in Chicago.
Yeah, mate. And the purge law comes out on the 1st of January. It's disgusting. G'day, Keegan. How you going, mate? Leo's always here. Where's Lauren? There she is. G'day, buddy. How you going there, mate? We've got a video tonight that you should like, Lauren. It's going to be a communique between Piers Morgan, who's really picked up his act lately, and he'll be speaking to Jordan Peterson. We're going to be listening to that as soon as we let you go for a couple of seconds to just set up if you can hear it.
Well, I just pulled up the video then. I assumed it was the one between him and Piers Morgan, so I just pulled that up. So let me know when to press play.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do now is I will go to that now. Bam. I will have to. I won't be able to read comments for a second, team, because we're going to this. Bam. And what we're going to do is we're going to listen to this for a second. Right? Hopefully the sound maintains. This is Jordan Peterson that is speaking on Russia. The title actually is Jordan Peterson Debates Psychology of Vladimir Putin with Piers Morgan. So enjoy this. It'll become a source that you can go to be able to actually assist others. So are you ready to talk on this one, Shannon?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll press play whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm going to press play in 3, 2, 1.
Well, he's a lot more like everybody else than anyone thinks. The notion that he's Hitler or Stalin, that's just foolish. I don't see any evidence for that at all. I mean, first of all, Hitler and Stalin were very singular types. And there's...
I'm going to have to call you back. Sorry, mate.
No worries.
I'll call you back when this is done. All right, mate.
There's a bit of Hitler and Stalin in everyone, so, there's some truth in that. Maybe there's more in the typical Russian leader
than normal. A bit of Hitler in everyone? Really?
Could you imagine, team, actually having this communication with people that aren't ready for an intellectual conversation? It would be extremely hard. Already, they would be saying, what are you implying when you're talking to one of the world's most learned men? And why is he better than other psychiatrists, psychologists, etc.? Is because he's the one that everyone finds not just bipolar to they like him or hate him, but the fact he stands out amongst them as the person that has the most insightful voice and is always ready for educated people to come over there like waves breaking against rocks, but still manage to walk away where he doesn't get time to prepare, but they do, and they tend to walk away looking the idiot. Let's go, Jordan. I've met him in real life. I've got his book, hosted him, sat down with him. An amazing man. And his wife is great too.
There's more than a bit.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, well, why would have Nazism spread the way it did? People think, well, that's all top down. It's not top down. There's a part of people that are all these people who informed on Kate Berbelsing.
Well, didn't Goebbels say that the way to get vast numbers of people to go along with what you want to do is to terrify them?
Yeah, well, you can do
hold
that.
a grip of terror over them.
And what has happened in the last 2 years that absolutely sounds exactly what Piers Morgan just said then. Do I need to say it? Make people scared, then sell the solution.
Oh, yeah, but...
And in a way, that's what Putin's now doing with the Russian people, where he's going back now into a position of they're all trying to get us, they want to attack us, they want to take us over. He's terrifying his people to rally support for what at the moment is a conflict he has started, which is not going the way he assumed.
Well, the most, what would you say, the wisest commentators on totalitarian states, like Solzhenitsyn, and many psychological commentators, Jung was a good example of that, made a very straightforward case that you can't have a totalitarian state unless every single person is willing to lie about everything all the time. And you can think about that as top-down, because the leaders lie too, and they also enforce punishments if you don't lie. But then you can also think about it, the totalitarian spirit is replicated at every level of the society. And so in a truly totalitarian state, husbands lie to their wives and parents lie to their children. And the totalitarian state is actually the grip of the lie. And so, and people will certainly go along with that. I mean we're seeing that emerge.
We're already seeing people that go along that are saying that a man can have a baby. You know, that is another perversion of truth. Yet we've all got to pretend that we agree so we don't get cancelled or end up ultimately being on a list in our workplace by our HR departments that are supposed to be there for harmony, for the best working outcome.
Here with cancel culture, it's like lie,
yes,
or else.
Yes,
it's like, yeah, well.
And the Russian people will be bombarded all the time with state media propaganda and will be buying into a lot of what Putin is saying.
The new VPNs, but allow them to be able to watch things. Social media allows people to watch things around the world, but portray that they are actually in a different region of the world, or at least blocked from the view of others. We can't keep up with the power of technology and then the intellectual property that catches us out if we attempt to hide or lie.
Yeah.
How does this war end, do you think?
We're going to find out this winter. Well, I know what I would do in his shoes. I'd wait till the first cold snap and shut off the taps.
Right.
Well,
because
of course he's going to do that.
He's got the control over the energy.
Of course he's going to do that. He's already warned the West with his...
For those that don't know, there was a warning that went out by Donald Trump more than 4 years ago that said to Germany, to all of the countries on the West that are dependent upon the power from Russia, the energy sector, that do not get dependent on that because they don't want to, they're at war with fossil fuels, etc., to stay woke, to stay green, when the answer is nuclear. You know, or at least a better outcome than fossil fuels. And we all know that the turbines and the solar is not up to the job, which is the reason why in California they're paying people to not charge their electric cars because the grid cannot handle it. You know, but people are trying to keep the demon there because it's attached to how they make their bucks and hold on to their power.
His insistence that maintenance problems were necessary and the pipelines had to be shut down.
Do you think he will use a nuclear weapon?
If necessary, he'll use a tactical battlefield weapon.
Even if it starts World War III?
It won't. Probably.
Why? Because we wouldn't respond?
What's in it for us?
If you let him do it and get away with it, where does that end? Then you are into a hit analogy.
Well, there's a lot. You can get yourself in a situation, no problem, where there's no good outcome. We're trying to do that right now on every front we can possibly imagine. We can easily get ourselves in a situation where it's hell this way and hell that way. That's highly probable.
Well, should the Ukrainians give the Russians anything? When I was over there recently interviewing President Zelensky, what I was struck by was everybody I met in Kyiv, the capital city, were utterly resolute. Don't give them an inch of our land.
So these are the people that probably haven't heard a gunshot yet, are saying what the people that are carrying the weapons, that are standing knee deep in filth, who are facing the lions, telling them, no, it's like yelling out, someone help that person, but you don't do it yourself. Now, the video tomorrow is going to say a lot.
Yeah, well, I can't speak to that because I don't know what the preconditions for peace might be. But I do know that naive notions that the Russians are going to lose somehow, or that we're going to win, I just don't understand. I don't understand that. Well, what do you mean we're going to win? What are we going to win here exactly?
No one's going to win here, Tim. No one. Except maybe Zelensky, who will walk away a billionaire if he's not already.
Well, I guess a victory would be that the Russians retreated from Ukraine.
With Ukraine in ruins.
Right.
Well,
with
fine. That's a hell of a victory. Like, I think Putin could manage that, because I think he could tell his people, and I think they might buy it. It's like, we accomplished our objective. We devastated Ukraine and we kept it out of the hands of the West. And that's not great. It's not what we had hoped for, but it's better than the alternative. And I think they would buy that. And I think when Putin went into Ukraine, I thought a bunch of things, which I made a YouTube video about that. People criticized like mad. I thought, okay, well, what's happening here? Oh, I see. His end game for failure is that Ukraine is left in a smoking ruin. Oh, that's a victory. So then he can lose with impunity.
Right.
So how can we win? We can't win against Vladimir Putin anyways, because you cannot win against someone you cannot say no to.
They're talking about their power replacement, their energy sector. They're dependent on them now. And the winter's coming.
Period. And we can't say no to Putin because we sold our soul for his oil and gas. And we did that to elevate our moral stature in relationship to saving the planet. And so here we are, facing a very dire winter, hoisted on the petard of our own foolishness and moral presumption.
I don't know that many big words, let alone stringing them together without a script.
We're saving the planet. We'll see. I don't think so. It doesn't look like it to me. And this is the most catastrophic issue here. Assuming that we're facing an environmental crisis of planetary proportions, which is not something I buy, by the way, assuming we are, well, then I would imagine that you would put in place measures that would ameliorate that problem instead of exacerbating it. But all the measures you're putting in place are actually making the environmental problem worse. So how is that even vaguely acceptable? And I look at that and I think, oh, I see. It's just like George Orwell said about middle-class socialists 50 years ago. It's not that you love the planet, it's that you hate humanity.
Damn.
So, well, have at her, boys and girls, and we'll see what happens this winter. And it's very terrifying to me.
It is.
I especially here, because your energy prices have gone way out of control, and that's going to hurt a lot of poor people, and certainly around the world as well. The World Bank already estimated that we've put 350 million people into what they call food insecurity. 350 million. That's 3 times as many as the communists managed to kill. Maybe we can manage that in a winter. But the planet has too many people on it anyway, so, that's just poor people.
He's been cynical there, Tim. Beb, thank you for that. I'm going to whack Shannon back on in a second. Okay. So, sorry I couldn't actually listen to you, see you then. I just didn't want your... is Zelensky paying... Zelensky's not paying for anything, team. He's probably a billionaire now. He's not in danger. Probably hasn't heard a gunshot. Always wears exactly the same T-shirt. Has 50 of them in his cupboard. I don't think he's the hero he says he is. He's getting billions and billions and billions of dollars with no receipts required, while people are also donating the equipment to him. And people are saying, but he's paying for it. But you're going, but how can he be paying for it when he's already the poorest country in Europe? He's not poor, but his country is poor. And they're saying, no, we won't give up. You're going, well, that just makes you worse off. Okay? If there was a remuneration plan from Russia to take people in and say, we will continue to speak our sovereign language, and those that wish to move to Luhansk and Donetsk, then maybe that's a solution. I don't know. Is there a solution? I don't know. When the Minsk agreement fell down in 2014, and then they went back in 2015 to make sure that the standoff was occurring between military forces. I I don't think people thought that it would collapse within 10 years and then become this. It's hard to believe 300,000 people they're trying to mobilise now were actually playing probably Modern Warfare 8 months ago, just before this started, not even thinking this is potentially a possibility. And now we've got two sectors of Ukraine, one that's heavily into a war, the other half that is not in it barely at all. You would like to think that the common sense on the ground is somewhere towards the sympathies of those who are fighting, not from those that are protected, okay, and potentially, completely out of the fight, but still got an equal opinion. Yeah. Putin's call up is for males 18 to 65. Could you imagine being 65 and doing that? And why is it that they call up people that have done their time, not the people that haven't done their time? I don't understand it. And they're talking about 2 weeks of training to get those that are previously trained as reservists, whatever that means in Russia, up to speed. Hey, Shannon, how you going, mate? Sorry, I didn't want the screen to be covered in information and us to have that break in between it. So sorry about that, mate. So what did you take away from that video, mate?
I love Jordan Peterson, but when he starts talking about military opinions, I don't know how seriously to take it. Although he understands Russian history almost better than anyone.
Just remember, anyone can talk about military context. They might not understand the tactics. They might not understand always the application of strategy, etc. But it's not hard to be an intellectual on military histories and understand where it's going to go and where the holes are in the net, so to speak. So I don't have a problem.
His strengths is his history knowledge as well.
Yeah. G'day, Callum. How you going, mate? Tropic salt, 100%. Not stickman exactly. Chad, correction. Most countries are sending billions in equipment as opposed to actual money. There's actually hundreds of billions have also gone there as well, Chad.
Well, that's another thing with the Bushmaster question is that I know that ScoMo ended up gifting him the Bushmasters as defence aid, so he didn't pay for them.
And you know what? A lot of the equipment, this is one thing a lot of people probably don't understand either, is a lot of the equipment that's actually going to America actually is, considering if you're part of NATO, you have to pay 2% of your GDP towards NATO. So they can look like they're being the great guy when in actual fact they're diverting money from one pot to another. But the other one is there's a shelf life of almost all equipment, missile systems, etc. So what they're doing is they're giving things that are already got a use by date that is running out, but looking like the good guy. Now, the Bushmaster, let's not give it too much credit. The only thing it had going for it was the fact that, okay, it was enclosed, it was protected mobility, and had a V-shaped hull. It is not a fighting vehicle. It is protected mobility only. So it doesn't really have a strategic capability or tactical. It's basically on the road. It can take any missile strike will destroy it. So
yeah, I think it's just a symbolic gift for us to be like, hey,
yeah.
We care.
And
to help.
And I'm not always a fan of that either. To me, when you give aid to it, it shouldn't be something that has a battlefield effect as such, despite the fact of what I just said. It should be, we're going to send medical, CASEVAC capabilities that go there and potentially operate for both sides. Be neutral. Because you can't stand by a fight and go fight, 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 fight. I'm not going to throw a punch, but I'm going for Macca, who's fighting Rob. And then at the end of it, wonder why Rob's angry at me. You're going, you were into it up to your fucking eyeballs, mate. You just didn't get your hands dirty. So, Matty, I agree. Ambulances, yes. CASEVAC, yes. Doctors, yes. MASH, your medical outpost. What better way to send your people to get the best traumatic training than have neutral zones within the Ukraine, that happens to? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great mine survivability. Yeah. Look, they took that. They were good for a couple of areas, Tropic, but that's it.
I can't say I can speak to how they work at all, to be honest. I just knew that we gifted it to them.
Yeah. And that was because we knew we were getting rid of them as well. Richie Wallace, they have a law in Russia that conscripts can't be deployed abroad. That's the funny thing, that these are reservists that are now getting sent abroad. Normally, that's one of those things you stay internally. Having said that, Dakota trial as well. But
Well,
Putin's-
if the referendums go ahead, and it'll be technically a part of Russia, so they won't be sent overseas, right?
Yeah, that's right. Where they're in a bit of danger with what's happening is they're after, and I really apologise if we've got any Russians or Ukrainians here, Luhansk and Donetsk, those locations. It's not enough that they just retain those locations, because that is not where necessarily the value is. It does allow them to use that and say that has been sovereign soil, therefore we're protecting that now. But what they really
doesn't
need,
look like that's what they were really after in the first place, after trying to go for Kiev.
well, what they want is to actually link the Crimea to Russia. That's what it is all about. It's about having ports that they can actually use for trade, for naval, etc. Because that was cut off, so Ukraine cut the water off to be assholes. And don't get me wrong, Ukraine has been a son of a bitch to the people in Luhansk and Donetsk, etc. It's been going back and forth. That's why the Minsk agreement happened in the first place, because the amount of bloodshed that was happening in between.
Yeah.
What about that giant medical ship USS Mercy to Ukraine? Look, you don't wet your powder, so to speak. You've got to make sure that you don't all of a sudden, like, people would go, oh, why don't we send this to Ukraine? You go, okay, here's a question for you. Ukraine's been the poorest country in Europe for fucking a century. Why didn't you send stuff to them 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago, 80 years ago? Why is it suddenly, when it's the coolest thing as a distraction on the TV and CNN, that all of a sudden people want to send money there? They could have done with some houses, some heating, and some logistics, any time in history, but all of a sudden they matter.
Yeah, it sucks that it takes something like this to happen for people to have eyes on it.
And how many countries in the world are going, how come all of this is happening to, what do you call it? How come all this is happening to Ukraine, yet no one went into the Central Republic of Congo since 1995? More than 10 million people have lost their lives in civil war. Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Chad, will Abrams tanks be considered? No. Nope. No.
To be sent over to Ukraine.
Sorry? Yeah.
To be sent over.
We're not going to send our essential equipment, and our tanks don't get sent on deployments either. Yeah. It is quite sad, to tell you the truth, that there is solutions that can be done, but we keep forgetting that human nature. But at the same time, here we are in our own countries that can't even get along with our neighbour, but wonder why wars happen between countries with completely conflicting cultures.
Yeah. I think some people take things for granted until they go through a situation like that.
Yeah, they do. Hey, James Morris, how you going, mate? You know what we feel about two people that have their two first names? It makes it very confusing, especially when you join the army. No, we don't deploy them, Brady. Sticky. Russia has invaded multiple countries, but this is the first time they have invaded an ally of the West. And when you don't have to do too much history.
Crimea and stuff like that in 2014.
Yeah.
And then there was another one before that as well.
The reason why they did this is because the game plan worked in 2014. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Ozan and Kaz, in your opinion, what should Australia's response be in the event Russia deploys nuclear weapons? I'd say put our head down and hope that we don't get one too on Ukraine or even another national potential NATO member. Well, we're not part of NATO, but we are part of AUKUS. We are part of, and we have flow over with other nations, US, etc., with the ANZUS treaties, etc., and we're part of the Five Eyes intelligence community, etc. You've got to be careful of being able to go in for one and not for another one. There has to be a reason. There has to be an outcome that can be met. What? Sorry. James Morris says, Kaz, some sad news. My father died. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Oh, okay. 18th of the 9th, 2002. Ex-4AR and 9RR soldier, Borneo, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Mate, that's some sad news. My father died 20 years ago.
Thanks
Okay.
for your service.
Yep. It's we all die, and that is one of those things, mate, that is my worst nightmare, that I lose my father, because all of a sudden it means I've got to mature, don't I? I hope you've got great memories of him, mate, and I hope that you learned some great lessons from him. And, mate, all the best to your father and to yourself, and what you do for your family now. Yeah. Imagine,
Yeah,
I
respect.
had a talk today. His Tropic Salt has got a thing here. NATO is the best defense weapon in the world. Yes, except for the fact that Russia owns nuclear weapons. Now,
Yeah, I was going to say tell it to Russia.
there's sort of a loose agreement almost in infantry. It's like NATO, that you're not allowed to fight sort of amongst yourselves. We do. We have punch-ons amongst ourselves. But it used to be, if you ever fight with someone in your own platoon, you were dragged over to the squash courts and had to fight while everyone watched in there. And so you knew there was going to be some sort of repercussion for fighting within your own. I think that'd be awesome if people had, it doesn't matter. You throw punches at one of your own, okay, the whole group moves in on you. And that would be a good thing if someone was rough with their misses, all that sort of shit. People would be able to go in there with the absolute confidence, go, mate, I'm going to grab you, I'm going to drag you away. You know, you can come and spend the night with us. And if you throw a punch at me, the platoon's coming to get you. You know, see how you like it.
Yeah. I guess that's the reason why the military exists at the end of the day. Sometimes violence is the only thing that works.
Yep. It's toxic masculinity that's made most the best creations and saves people on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I mean, not necessarily do you have to use the act of violence. You know what I mean? But the fear of the repercussions can keep the violence at bay.
Yep. It's really, it's only violence. When people get punished, they need to know that there is something there that is greater than a fine, greater than doing community service, picking up papers, that you're going to get a slap on the ass by your dad, and he's not going to use a wooden spoon to do it, or he's going to use that belt and go crack, crack, crack before he hits you to scare the shit out of you.
So I read this post before, Kaz, and it was from this, he's a journalist in Russia named Ilya Lazovsky.
Okay.
And he put up a post saying, I could be butchering this, in Buryatia, male uni students are being taken straight out of classes. Some schools are being closed and turned into enlistment officers. Men are being rounded up and conscripted from small villages, specifically ethnic villages. This will look very different.
I can't hear it all. I'll call you back, mate. Sorry, buddy, you went robot, mate. Can you just read that one again? And what you're about to read out, is that going to be people that are actually engineer students?
Well, what I've heard is just students in general from like the comments in this guy's chat. But you know, some people are saying they might have specific
Qualifications.
Yeah, qualifications, but a lot of people are saying they haven't. A lot of coal miners have been taken up. They're saying like they have had no experience whatsoever. You know, what are your opinions? And do you think they're just going to stick to what they're actually saying, or do you think it's going to be a bit more?
And that's why this video comes out tomorrow. Because the poorest people are the people that are targeted first, because their voice is not as loud as the rich and the educated. It is a funny thing. And there we've got one. That young fellow there, this is not a defensive war. We're not defending ourselves, is what he's saying. Now, they've got ministers that carry pens saying that training is enough, 2 weeks training. There is people here that are from a Russian soldier saying there was a soldier in our company who didn't know how a machine gun works. So I taught that guy how to disassemble and assemble a machine gun. I wouldn't want to be next to him in battle. How can you fight like that? If someone doesn't want to go, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to know them. I don't want them near me when I'm preparing for the big task at hand. If you're not in it 100%,
that there's a lot of speculation that like a lot of detainees that are getting arrested for protesting have been ordered to report for enlistment. Like, that's wild. That's the last person you'd want next to you.
there is going to be a lot of propaganda. We do need to take that into account. You know, there is going to be a lot. There's going to be all sorts of information. Hit the like button if you can, team. It should be the price to be here if you do. G'day, Daz. How's the cattle going? And that ring in. He's got a water buffalo in there. As confused as hell because he's got all these cattle and he's got a water buffalo that hasn't got a mirror. So it's looking at the others going, why do I feel different? It's like a cruel experiment.
It's part of the times right now, Kaz.
Yeah, they're not necessarily fighting and screaming because they're against war. They're screaming and also because they're scared they're next. And I don't want them to be next. Now, I don't mind if people are conscientious objectors unless their own country is being attacked. Yeah. And then we saw how amazing France was when the war effort came on and they said, we need everyone. And it didn't matter if you were making a sandwich, packing bullets, whatever. Your entire country became a franchise and did what you could do. But I don't expect everyone to take up a weapon. There is a well of courage within all of us. And some of us, it is small. Some of us, it is absolutely huge. You know, I don't want to see someone, or we don't want to win the war, win the battles, but at the end of the day, have such a destroyed society. Now, one of the things I'll be talking about in this video tomorrow, without getting too far ahead of myself, my fear for the Ukrainian people is at the moment they can get a sniff of victory and hang on at all costs, not understanding, do you understand what the price is if you keep pushing into this? It's not just freedom. It's not a movie. We're not just talking about Braveheart. Now we're talking about people that are going to come home to houses that no longer exist with wounds that can't be fixed because the Kazakh situation wasn't good enough, to families that aren't coming home, and to a mind that's been broken on the front line from the things you've done and the things you've seen. You know, at the moment they might be moving too far forward, and when you see the actual map of the Russian-held areas, you know, what could actually happen is something like Battle of the Bulge, where they end up in a position where they think, look, we're winning, and then maneuver elements come in and they get encircled and they can get crushed.
Yeah.
You know, there's no winners in this because you've got people from Russia that used to go to holidays in Ukraine.
Yeah,
it's
there's
terrible.
only one person who wanted this, and that's he's sitting behind a desk.
Yep, and I'm sure there is also information because there's a hell of a lot of people in Russia that absolutely still love him, Putin, and also think that they're doing the right thing. So where the disconnect is, I don't know. And that's
it's kind of funny when you seen a couple of months ago when they're like, you know, we should be going into Ukraine. Of course, you know, they had all these reasons, and now very many of these people are fleeing, and they might get.
Maddie's got a good one too. There's going to be a lot of refugees. And the thing is, the difference between displaced people and refugees is a refugee is you become an illegal immigrant if you skip past one country. You're meant to go to the nearest country that offers you refuge. And that's what you're meant to do. You're not meant to go to the one that has the best unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
You know, so when
they're
these
going to Turkey, Kazakhstan.
Yep, they end up like zombies, just crazily throwing themselves at the wire to get to where the world is better.
They don't need a visa to get in there. Certain countries.
Yeah, and that's how you become a refugee. Yeah. Whereas a displaced, you're going to be within your own country still, but you're just not able to go back to your township, etc. So there's also going to be a real problem here. What happens when the Ukrainians take excessive amounts of prisoners of the Russians, but still have to feed them? Where's that food coming from?
I mean, they've had the problem with the shipping, like all the shipping problems and all that. You know, they're known as like the breadbasket of Europe.
Yep.
With everything they export, have trouble themselves keeping up, let alone looking after themselves and more.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people from Russia are actually going to try to flee into Ukraine now?
Yep. Yeah. And now that's the thing. you're going to end up with people that are supposed to be fighting. They're actually trying to embrace each other. And, just put yourself in the perspective, like just say Carl's there and all of a sudden you hear a smashing on the door and your family is saying, don't help them, keep the lights off. There's only enough food for us. But then you open the door and it's not one person, it's a family of 7. And then you look at the family in their eyes and you love their children instantly because they're children. But then you take them in and now your food is now being halved. And then contempt can be bred because once they come in and then they feel safe, their real personality comes out and you might find you can't kick them out anymore. They might actually overpower your family. They might you might end up in a position where you put yourself in harm's way because your heart was too big, because you felt like you could help everyone. Many people have
How long can you keep knocking on the door until you want to kick the door down?
You can be dashed on the rocks, mate. You can be dashed on the rocks by your own big heart.
Yep.
I heard someone talking about how if Jay is saying, heard someone talking about how if somehow Ukraine does win, how is Zelensky meant to expect people to suddenly put their guns down and become a good law-abiding citizen again? And that's
I don't think they would. I think they'd be on defensive readiness for a long time.
And that's one of the things that comes. Look, guys, I was in the Sinai, which monitors the Camp David Accords, which happened after the war between Israel and Egypt. Now, what happened is the Sinai that looks like a pizza slice, or Tarzan's jocks. There's no-go zones for Egyptian forces in concentration, and that is being looked at and monitored by the MFO, the multi-force organization, which is made up of the US and about 11 other nations, including Australia and New Zealand, that are there all the time. Now, we're on the ground there, and what that is a soft border, which means that although Egyptians can come over and they can cross borders into Israel, they can cross borders into Palestine, etc., and all that sort of stuff, we monitor that. So what it creates a soft space where there's not allowed to be military build-up, which means although Israel took that land, they're not trying to hold it. They gave it back. Egypt is not trying to dominate and push hard up against Israel to pressure them, because they've got that. So they know they've got their land back for free, and all that happened. So
I think that's a good example because I think Russia, Ukraine, like the lines would end up like that after all this now.
Well, they did try this with the Minsk agreement between Donetsk and Luhansk. I'm sorry, team, for my pronunciation. They tried that where there's a soft zone in between. But the thing is, Mariupol and Donetsk, they're not far apart from each other. So it's not too hard for people to end up in a position where there's clashes, what could have been between civilians, where weapons can reach certain distances, etc., and then who punishes the people,
Yeah.
It is very sad. It's what did you take away from that video?
I just thought like he was very confident to say, well, what do we have to gain by going up against them if they use nukes? I'm like, well, we'd always have to go up and do something about it. But then again, using his point against him, what do they really have to gain by using the nuclear weapons? It's not going to work out well for them.
And you've got to be able to ask, to be able to have a peace treaty. You've got to be able to say, what does victory look like? And both people have to admit, yep, that is what victory looks like to me too. Then you can work towards that. Lauren's speaking about the issue with the teacher with the gender identity that has those huge.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, that creature should be sacked from their job.
And I agree, Lauren. I think that's disgusting. You should wear it right.
Yeah, I don't think that person should be allowed near children, to tell you the truth, at all. No, it's disgusting. Well, we get kicked out of our jobs if we have some sort of problem. We show the slightest sort of mental health within the military, and you can lose your job quick sticks.
Yeah.
The client is the children. It's not the teacher. We need to care
Well,
about
yeah,
the kids.
especially if you're fostering, like almost fostering in a child, like 5 days of a week, and teaching them and being with them more than the parent would be.
Yep.
Where sometimes philosophy beliefs do matter.
Yep. Hey, Milton, how you going, mate? B Stubbs, doing well. Every time I see your name, Stubbs, I think of the buffalo sauce that is perfect for. You can buy it at all your retail outlets for putting on chicken wings, etc. Must try harder to keep those diplomatic channels open. I believe India and Israel are working on it. You've got to try and keep it on that peace table. You have to, because for every day you don't, it's someone's son or father not coming home, and that's not just someone they love; it's someone who puts food on that table.
Yeah.
Yep, the teacher of the futures. Matty, Zelensky needs to stand on his own 2 feet. He can't. He's too short, bro. Be very careful of countries that are led by short men.
Even when he did stand-up comedy, he was sitting down.
And you know what? It's also very good to stay very neutral on this situation, because at the moment what's happening with Russia and Ukraine is the losers are on both sides.
Yeah.
I'm not on either one side. It's a tragedy on both sides. I find it heartbreaking.
Yeah, I can't remember who said this. I think it was some old philosopher said, like, war has no winners, only it'll only gain a lot, something like that. Which would be like the line of territory that's played, but there's no winners. Like,
There is none, mate.
if anyone thinks there's like true winners and like war is cool, it's like you watch too many movies.
Yeah, it's true. Napoleon, Jay Frey. Sucks when you know you're leaving for Capuca in January, but also have leave a girl behind. Melton, it's fine, mate. How old are you, Melton? It'll work itself out. You're about to take this. If she's meant to be the one for you, then you're about to invite her onto an adventure that, as long as you include her and respect her, she's going to love where her life goes as well, mate.
Or it's a fresh relationship.
Yep.
Because if you've been in a relationship for a while, you're like, yeah, I could join the army.
Yeah. I'm sure there's people that also that are fighting in Ukraine because of the marriage they were in. It's so much more peaceful than Donetsk.
Yeah, it really
18.
is.
Okay.
Less stressful.
Okay, Milton. Yep. I understand that you've got a little bit of anxiety. Yep, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I guess it's natural for everyone to have that feeling, right? Shit.
Lauren Sanderburn and Ring of Fire. Is that for the buffalo wings? What,
God.
guys and gals, it's I hope no one thinks that I'm going tough on Ukraine, but what I've done too often is always go and take the side of the underdog, and sometimes things don't age well. It's going to be terrible for the men that are fighting on the eastern borders of the Ukraine. What they're going to do, what they're going to see, basically with no rules of engagement whatsoever, that are then going to come back to potentially, like I said before, no house, no wife, no kids. They're living in Poland now, and someone wants you to be on between $6 and $12, either an hour or a day, being a tradesman when you've got 17 ambushes successful under your belt. How is that person going to ever be able to go back to what normal life used to be? And when this is all over, is there the potential for the NATO countries to all say, well, we're going to give 50% of what our 2% of our GDP is, all towards the rebuilding of infrastructure and completely rebuild Ukraine? And would that in fact be enough? But if you did that, what's going to happen to every other country like Chad, like Cuba, like Ethiopia, like parts of Nigeria, that go, well, what about us? We see these Western countries screaming Black Lives Matter, yet here we are, but no money's coming to us. And they're not asking for money. That's what I like about it. I always want to give money to the people that aren't asking.
Yeah, that's always pretty neat. I mean, it gets to a point like, how much building back and how much repairing would you want to do on those front lines right now? I mean, I think about if I was to go back to Luhansk in the next area and my house is destroyed, would I really want to rebuild it right now, especially with the new like reservists and all that sort of people being conscripted? Like, when is this going to end? You know, is it worth rebuilding, and when do we do it?
It is true, mate. Brady, he was just talking about how funny that was when Texas and that sent the illegals over to the sanctuary cities at Martha's Vineyard, where all the rich are in the US. And it's funny, all the lefties that are there, what they do?
And then they sent them off. Yeah.
Less than 24 hours, they were out of there.
Yeah. I loved how they were like, New York as well. We're like, we're a sanctuary state. Texas should be the same way too. So Texas sends them to New York, and then as soon as they do that, Mayor Adams is like, God damn it, we don't want them.
Yeah. Is that true? James is saying he remembers a story about Ukraine when two trans men were trying to leave to Poland. The military police turned around and said, "Nah, you man."
Oh. Oh no, mate. Who knows? It's an interesting one.
Ukraine needs to have the Russian prisoners rebuild the cities that they destroyed. Jeez.
How well would they build it?
Would you? Yeah, I was going to say, would you trust the earthing of the electronics?
You'll be in the shower and it just collapses in on you.
Yeah. Oh, team, we've been on for nearly an hour. For those that didn't know, we watched a video before, which was Jordan Peterson speaking to Piers Morgan. And it was basically what it was. And the reason why I chose that video is because it's a different voice to what you're hearing on the propaganda that's being promulgated across the internet that is saying, do this, do more, do this now. You know, sometimes we can do too much flood relief while it's still raining. You need to wait till it's over. And the thing is, if you prop people up, especially war efforts, have you ever seen two guys that are fighting and there's no winners? They're both falling apart at the seams, Mr. Potato heading each other, you know, and you just want one to get knocked out to end it. But until someone is knocked out, the fight continues. It's the reason why before 1971, when the dollar was attached to the gold, backed by gold, that a war would only go for a certain amount of time, because if you ran out of gold, then you had to go for bonds, and then you had to war bonds, and then the war bonds kept the war going. But it got to a certain time where you go, I've got to pull out soon. I can't afford to be in this fight any longer. But because we've got the printing machines now, it means we can keep digging ourselves deeper, deeper, and deeper. And what we're seeing at the moment is the red corn chip is in a really, really bad position where they may not be able to get themselves out of this at all. Because there are Ukrainian refugees that have come to Australia. That's not a refugee, mate. That's that's not the way refugees work. You know, you're supposed to go to the first country. You could probably say they are. You know, we've got people from Afghanistan as well. You know, you're not saying something about them. You're talking about the definition of a refugee goes to the first country that gives them basically domicile. If we take them on, yeah, all right. But there's also dangers of taking on people, regardless of how sad the story is, if there isn't anything that comes back to your country in return. And again, that goes back to having a heart that is too big, that you end up being the fall of Rome as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that friend that gets bullied a lot, and you take them under your wing, and then they end up treating you exactly the same way they got treated?
No, unfortunately. Well, I guess that's a good thing. So no.
I've had a few people like that, mate. You saved them from the hands of those that were treating them like shit because they wouldn't stand up for themselves, and just became the perpetual victim. But then when you gave them asylum and said, no, this person's with me now, you know, all of a sudden they start treating you like shit after a couple of months. And you go, don't you remember I'm the one that picked you up and gave you a title?
I guess I've had similar situations where people sort of take things for granted and want to say, hey. You know, you take them into your house and stuff like that.
That's funny. That's funny, Stevie Webb. He's talking about put a Ukraine flag on your Facebook profile picture. That'll make a difference. Yeah, that's just virtue signaling, isn't it? Navy veteran. A true soldier fights not because he hates what's in front of him, but he loves what's behind him. That's great.
Yeah.
Don't hate the soldier, especially when they don't get to choose, do they? Blame it with the government. And that's why I hate this one, Navy. Okay? Check out this dude down here that looks like he's had Botox at the fucking forehead. 2 weeks of training is enough, says the Russian MP. Are his children enlisted? I dare say they're not. I dare say they are not. You know, when we're seeing poorly trained people, and this is no slant to them, they're going to go up against some veterans of the Ukrainian forces like Stalingrad that have learnt rat cunning, how to win with the drone, how to attack the critical vulnerabilities of the Russian forces, and they're doing a really, really good job.
And after the last 8 years, like after getting attacked in 2014, they've been training really hard. They've been getting specialist training of other countries.
Yeah, and if you think these tactics are coming from Ukraine,
well, no.
think again.
This is admitted recently. A lot of it come to U.S. intelligence.
Yeah, of course. So when we spoke today, I think it might have. Who was I talking with? I was talking with someone earlier. I can't remember. I've had a whole bunch of calls today. G'day, Sinan. How you going, mate? And basically, it was talking about the tactics, how well the Ukrainians doing. I said, well, it's not the actual tactics; it's the deception. There is someone that is leaking the intelligence community information to the forces on the ground that are not necessarily centralized in their command system, that are looking from objectives from afar, that have done the military appreciation process, that are looking at this and saying the center of gravity for the Russian forces is this. This is their critical vulnerabilities. Hit those or perceive or create a distraction that makes it look like that's where you're weak. And then when this happens and it becomes a decision point, then you actually engage in this way. So I believe that is all coming from outside proxy war intelligence communities. And it's not.
They have their psyop communities all over.
Yeah. Battle-hardened crayons who would give their lives up in a heartbeat. I absolutely believe that, Richie. I absolutely do. And Richie, this is exactly the same thing we saw with World War I, with World War II. We saw the cream of the Australian crop. We saw whole cricket teams, football teams. What else? We saw all our sports people go and join together. We saw the cream of the crop, the personalities, the strong guys. You might call them alphas. I don't really refer to guys as alphas. But what we saw was the cream of the crop, the stand-up people, those that would have potentially made master tradesmen, that would have contributed to the most in society, all taken. And then when they got to the battlefields, they were the bravest amongst the guys of their peers there as well, which means the law of mathematics is they ultimately end up getting hit. We lose them. And then those that come back are wounded, either mentally, physically, or both. And what we've now got is a stunted future. And that's what's happening now with Russia. And it's definitely happening with Ukraine. So we're seeing these big, bold, beautiful, bearded bastards going in there and doing what feels natural to them, what they were meant to be born 300 years ago. You know, but ultimately the price is the Ukrainian society is going to lose the best people among them that would have ultimately have been the most, potentially even the most honest politicians, because the best politicians normally come from those that have served and seen what it looks like in societies that have failed. Sorry, I get excited.
I agree.
It's not a replay, James. How are Russians working with Americans in Syria without issues? Because soldiers are professional, man.
Yeah.
You know, how did soldiers work in Afghanistan when there was...
Don't take it too personally, you know? Like World War I, World War II, you think, World War I, for example, you know, we were playing cricket with the Turkish.
Yep.
You know, and that all was based out of both sides had to pick up their dead soldiers. And then through that, they started sharing cigarettes and stuff like that. And they're like, hey, at the end of the day, we both don't like this. We both don't want to be here. And then they shared activities together.
Yep.
It's wild to think about.
It is. And one of the worst things that can happen is if you have people faced off against each other, fight each other, that actually grow a hatred of each other. Because what that means is when they finally get their hands on you, it doesn't matter if you have rules of armed conflict. It doesn't matter if you have Geneva Conventions. The laws of armed conflict won't matter. The rules of engagement won't matter. You'll do what it takes to get rid of the problem. So you don't want hatred between them. In saying that, it's controlled aggression. You could call it toxic masculinity, that people are able to fight with bayonets and it ain't personal.
Yeah. But when I think about that war at that time, so brutal. Not that it isn't now, but just when you think about having to go to bayonets.
Yep. And the whole thing about the bayonet is, one, Australians were excellent at it. And the other thing is, it is a mental picture to the people that you're putting the bayonet against, to let them know, I'm coming into your space. It's not because you want to go and do hand-to-hand fighting with them, but you're letting them know the message is, I'm coming to your face to take what you want, what we can, and I'm going to do everything, including use a rock, okay, to be able to defeat you. Hey, Rural Hunter. Rural Hunter is in Townsville. He's been up at his running game. Good to have you here, mate. Remember, for 14 months, unwashed. Have you had a shower yet? Not too cow. Thank you, mate. Yeah. Well, at least he got me tubes once. I'm in his debt. We have had the funeral, RSL, no one for the poppy service.
Yeah, that was James.
James, you've lost me here.
He was talking about his father.
Was that?
He brought it up before.
Did your father? Yeah, I understand that. But did you lose your father in 2002, or did I read it wrong and it's just happened?
18th of the 8th, 2022.
2022.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, mate. I'm sorry. Oh, dude. I've had the funeral. RSL had no one for the poppy service. I pray for our association, Queensland Police, to do it. That is really, mate, it's heartbreaking. And the sad thing about being a human, being a sentient being, is we actually get to have that heavy heart and sometimes not recover from it. It was this year. Okay, fuck.
Yeah, so he did say 2002 originally.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. Because I thought you were bringing up that your father died 20 years ago, James. I'm going, I'm sorry, mate. You're probably a father now too. What's going on? Yeah, he had a lone pipe, but they're very, very powerful as well. There was only one left because the rest were at the Queens. Yep. Navy veteran, a pissed off veteran with a bayonet is deadlier than an IBM. There you go. Lovely send off, James. It is. It's good to see some respect going, and that's why. I think it was Lauren that was saying to me the other day, those 5 youth that lost their lives in that car accident. Why'd they have 5 individual funerals? Why didn't they just have one beautiful ceremony where the entire town came out for all 5 of them and put them in the same grave?
Maybe some of the family members didn't agree to what happened or how it happened.
Yeah.
Maybe didn't like each other.
Yeah, devil's advocate. I reckon you're probably right there. I would have no problem with my child being beside the 4 people that they died with. So they're all in the ground together. Hey, Mr. Bain, what if Russia conscripts a Russian nunchuck buck? Nutsu cow. For those that don't know, Bain. Nunchuck buck. That's a hell of a guy. This is... Let me tell you something for those guys that are still on here, like if you can, if you haven't already. Thank you for the 343, my man. Nunchuck Buck was an unusual character, and a battalion is full of unusual characters. Nunchuck Buck, I've got so many stories of this guy. Would when he used to stand at the area gym at daytime, shadow boxing at himself in a mirror. You're going, why don't you go into town and just get in a fight? You know, there was the time that he had the fight at the taxi rank, which sometimes was up to 2 hours with no hot dog. And what happened was he backed up to give himself room and even threatened the guy and told them, you're dealing with a lethal weapon here. You know, and then what happened was he stepped off the gutter, twisted his ankle and hit the ground and said to the guy's face while he was down, you don't hit a warrior that's down. And the guy went, fuck off, and kicked the shit out of him on the ground. And then there was the time he heard someone that wanted a samurai sword. He goes, what? Because, you know, you get some of the martial arts people are a really unusual breed.
Oh, yeah.
And he came past and was like, what? Were you just saying something about a samurai sword? And he's going, yep. He's going, I'm the man you need to talk to. Yeah, me. And basically, he took him to King of Knives. And the guy just only wanted like a $160 sword to put on his wall, you know, like everyone used to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And he took over the conversation and said to the woman, that one. And just pointed up to the one that's up the top, bloody expensive as hell. And she's climbed up the ladder to get to it. And then when she took it off, he goes, careful. And she turned around the way you hold it with two hands. And you got to remember, these things are about as blunt as my sense of humor. And she passed it down to him, and he bowed his head and put both his hands up like they were the cradle of a sword, and then done the little and looked at the blade for inspection. And I think he tried to cut himself on the blunt edge. It was about as sharp as the edge of a brick, you know. And
I was gonna say, yeah, don't you usually have to sharpen them?
Yeah, oh, dude, funny as hell. If you did, you'd probably break it. Dave, mate, I guessed when you were in town that when you went to Dubbo that it didn't eventuate, mate. It's fine, mate. And I knew that you were probably feeling bad. It's fine. The Karkanos, do you do any martial arts, mate? No, I don't, mate. I don't. I quite like boxing. You know, I'm bad at it. You know, but controlled aggression, bayonet fighting.
You would think so with all the Nutsu cow stuff.
Yeah. The 300,000 conscripts will have the Ukrainian surrender number on their phones. James, mate, I know I asked this question in the video that comes out tomorrow for those that don't know. Bam. Let us know what time do you want me to have this video come out? What serves you best, team, when this video comes out? And basically with that, I'm asking, out of those 300,000, how many of those lovely young blokes are going to come home? Because that breaks your heart to know they haven't gone yet, but they will be. No. Chris, he just threw a yellow cow. Not so cow as Kaz hurts his hand again.
I can tell you what, mate, they've been working very hard as someone who lives across the road from Pucker.
Thanks.
They've been stumping.
My son just passed at Pucker in the artillery last week. Your videos helped both of us during his training at Kapuka. Cheers. Chris, that's a beautiful thing to say, mate. And we really do care for the person that's at Kapuka. And it's heartbreaking when we're getting so many, Chris, that are saying basically it's killing them to see some of their friends that didn't discover this channel quitting, and their own mates are telling them, don't quit. What are you doing? They're going, oh, this is not what I thought. And they're actually educating themselves and saying, this is not the army. This is the game show. This is Kapuka. It's meant to be just squeezing the civilianality out of you to make you a team player and understand that the mission is bigger than the individual. You know, it's
even the amount of people in chat that end up meeting up with each other and then going into Kapuka with each other.
Yep.
On the same bus.
It's insane. And I love that sort of stuff being on loudspeaker for them. It really is a precious thing. Thanks for that, Chris. I'm going to buy some chicken wings with that, mate. Yep. For those guys and gals that are in the Patreon, we had the most beautiful experience a couple of days ago. You'd like this one. They're Shannon, for those that like it, but it's my favourite girl's name almost, although I didn't say it when I spoke about favourite names. There was a young lass who looked like she looked like she had a few problems, I guess. She's a teenager, and she was there with her mum in a gallery, and it was a photography gallery in the Rocks in Sydney. And I saw her, and I listened in. As she said, he's a good-looking guy, and I nodded her agreement and said, "It's just the way I look." No, she didn't say that. But basically, what happened was she was looking at these pictures, and I knew that her mum wasn't probably going to get anything. So I just watched, and they were getting ready to leave, and so I asked, "Excuse me, are you into photography?" And she was, "Yeah, I love photography. I love it," and all that. And I spoke to her about photography for a little while. And I said, "Look, because you seem like a great person and I want to keep you inspired for photography," we ended up saying to her, "You can pick something in the center here and Patreon will take care of that." And she went and bought it from a completely different area that we didn't say that ended up costing more than what we were going to spend. But at the end of the day, it was still a beautiful thing. And to watch her face and the belief that someone had in her, and her name was Rose, which is Lauren's daughter's name. So it had a real crossover of compassion there, which was a great thing. For those that don't know, we're always doing things for people with the Patreon, whether it be paying for fuel, whether it be paying for people's meals, whether it be giving money to people in the street. It's just that I haven't got Aaron Dixon. He's the worst number 2 when it comes to the channel owner that you could have. And also, when you by yourself, it doesn't look organic if you go over the camera in someone's face. So.
You've always been very generous.
Yeah, especially with insults. Yeah. We're coming up to some of the last kapukas of the year. Yeah. So what there should be, the channel should actually be really taking off as people start to go, "Oh, I'm out of school. I want to join the military," but that's going to be in 2023 because the backload is still there. But you understand the promotions and the transfers are all going to start to kick in soon. And if you do your mathematics, the 3 months means that we're almost out of time for this year. So all the best to those. We've got Carl is about to go and do his course to get fully qualified in his CAV course, which is going to be fantastic for him. He's done a fair bit in 1 year. Don't we all, Kaz, especially us artistic girls? I don't know. Sometimes we do miss Dicko.
Jay Frey here. Someone else is going to Kapuka at the end of October. Probably going to meet someone else on the way before. You
will, mate. You got to just get in there and just yell out, "I'm from the trenches with Kaz!" or stand up and go, "Kaz said I'm going to fail." Hey, Morona alive? Not too cow, mate. Not too cow. Welcome to the Bearer of Coffee. I think I will. Thank you, sir. Aren't things going through the bloody roof with prices these days? $7.50 for a packet of kettle chili chips at a service station. $5.50 now for a cup of coffee at McDonald's, and they give it to you half froth.
Yeah, it's going. The prices are pretty crazy right now.
Look at this.
It would have settled down after COVID and all that, the height of it, but yeah, I think it's here to stay.
This is one of the funniest names I have ever seen on anything on YouTube. Water. Eat your water. You've made my night, mate. You'd better subscribe, you son of a legend. You would have been pissing yourself laughing when you actually made that name. That's gold. Jay, I didn't know you were a lass. I'm easy to spot, 5'2" chick. There you go. But at least you won't be angry like a bloke that's 5'2".
You won't be easy to spot if you're in a group.
And I'm not. I'm eat your water. Remember to. I'm not being nasty here, and I hope is. I know we've probably always got a fair few or some LGBT individuals or gay people in the crowd. I don't give a shit. You can do that. The Navy's there just for you. But it broke my heart to go and watch my favourite serial killer, if there's such thing, which is Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer, on on I love true crime, mate, on Netflix, and I just can't watch it. I've got to the end of episode 2, and there's just too much. I've always known that he was a gay guy. All these people that he took the lives of were gay, but I thought it was going to be more documentary based, and it is so in your face. I only got to the second episode of 10, and I can't watch it.
Yeah, my fiance was raving about it earlier. Might have to check it out.
Steve Webb, go to Coles Servo, get $2. No, mate, I don't discount my McDonald's experience. So your missus, I don't think the ladies
There's got too many
understand.
Patreon members now to go to Coles to get coffee.
Nah, not true. I need the whole legion. No, the cohort, mate. Yeah, it's a tough one. I really want to watch the show, but I can't do it. And it's funny how it doesn't seem to really affect ladies when they watch girls kiss girls in a movie or dudes kissing dudes. But for a dude, holy shit, I get like a stomach revulsion that just makes me, you know, you can
Maybe
be.
there's something. Maybe it's something that wants to come out of you that you're holding in.
Nope, absolutely not. You know, mate,
Over the years of all them showers in the army, mate, you know.
we never look.
Someone's repressed.
There you go, guys. We never look below the waist. We never look below the waist. You know who does, but it's funny when you go to America, you know, because we have like shower cubicles, except when you're in Tully where it's all open. But when you go to America, holy shit, it's like 60 people, 60 shower heads, everyone out in the open, and naturally because you're from Australia, you've got some of these black guys that look over like, you have kids with that, you know.
It's not that cold in here, mate.
Lauren has seen it. I enjoyed it, but yeah, heaps of gay, and I almost chunned it a couple of times. I don't know what it is. Richard Ramirez was the goat of serial killers. I just don't like the way they got him, man. The way he was running like a chicken from a fox when they actually caught him. Have any worries, Jared? I do. What about haunting? Do you believe in ghosts, Shannon?
I had this conversation with my missus the other night. It's like I believe I've seen ghosts twice, but at the same time, I don't believe in ghosts.
Okay.
So I'm very conflicted on that. So it's like,
what about? Okay, because not everyone's religious, but if there is a God, there's a devil. We all agree with that. Well, I'm religious, but in Rwanda,
I believe in God. I'm not necessarily religious.
Okay, but you believe in, so you believe there's a dark force as well then?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
See, I feel like the darkest places I've ever been wasn't because there was bad energy was there. I believe it was because there was no light energy was there. Now, when we went to Rwanda, what a lot of people don't know about is even when you weren't talking about things like Kabayo, or Nitarama churches, all that sort of stuff, you were sleeping where the massacres had happened. So where we were in the hospital, it was like it was set up from Hollywood, you know. And I'm doing this for Jared there. You want some worries? And this hospital had impossibly long hallways. It was similar to that one in the thumbnail that I've got there, which is symbolic of that chair just waiting for someone to be sat there to get the answers from, or at least go through excruciating YouTube pain live. But we'd be in this hospital and there was no air conditioning, but the morgue was full. So you can work that out.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, also there was hack marks in walls. There was bullet holes in walls. And in the high ceilings, there'd be blood that would be sprayed across the roof. But you'd be sleeping in those rooms. So when you look up at the roof and you focus on it, your mind goes to dark places. But then outside of the hospital, you know, there'd be areas where there'd be a hand, when there'd been rain, there'd be a hand sticking up out of the ground. You know, there'd be, as the rain runs off, there'd be hundreds of people that are now being uncovered in all the ditches, wherever you go. It was everywhere, and that's in the middle of the city. So There was nowhere to get away from it. And at night time, when you're changing a picket, you'd sometimes hear this, because it was like asylums there too. So you were hearing someone screaming in the middle of the night in a foreign language, and it felt dark. And you'd be by yourself with a weapon, running like a bitch down that hallway, pretending you're not scared. And then you'd get told no running in the hallways because it's distressing and scaring people that are actually patients, because they think, oh, has the killing started again? So wherever you went to, that became your normal, and that doesn't feel normal to think that's normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So no, you're sleeping where war crimes have happened. It was a terrible thing.
Creepy.
It was very creepy. I would have done anything to have gone back there with the cameras I have now to do a photography shoot, and I still might go back to Rwanda one day and do a photography shoot. That'd be a fantastic one. It'd give me a bit of closure as well.
Yeah, for sure. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I do believe in really dark energy, and then you get those times where you feel really warm and you feel beautiful. But that also happens when you're pissing your pants in the pool.
You always got to tear apart a good story.
I'm sorry. I believe in ghosts because of all the experience of our family had at our
You can't
last
stay
house.
serious for too long, can you?
I can't. It's ADD, man. I've got to keep moving. Otherwise, I could drown. Now go and eat your water.
Yeah,
Get
your
house
water,
ready.
mate. You'll be fine.
Okay, so Smokey was there where people had been killed with a large tree. So where I come from, Smokey, is if I didn't think there was ghosts there, but there was dark energy there, or the absence of light energy, I'll never understand how people think when someone dies peacefully in a bed in a house where there must be a ghost now, unless there is also energy left behind after every person. And if that's the case, I wish we'd be nicer to each other, especially if it turns out that there is an afterlife. And the way I talk to people is I don't care about people's religious leaning, but what if we're right and it is all real, and people are bucking the trend so hard not to believe in something because they don't understand it, that ultimately they get left without it? I don't know. Different topic. Begstar, even with a fuck foot and dealing with some psychos in training, didn't think it would actually happen, but marched out last Friday. So where are you now, Bengstar? Let us know. You don't have to tell us the rest of your name or anything, but just tell us about whereabouts in Australia. Lauren says, I've had experiences, but no evidence. Okay. I wish if there was ghosts, they didn't just make a book move or do something stupid like that. You know?
Yeah. Or make them silly shows about, like, they'll just have like 20 seasons and they don't ever capture a ghost.
Yeah. Reminds me of Ice Chunky. There's nothing fun about an obs course when you're carrying not just the M4 or the Steyr EF88. When you're carrying that, okay, that's the Mag 58 team. 10.8 unloaded. That's a different matter. So Benny, is he saying where he is? Bane. Just got 51 push-ups in a minute the other day, aiming for at least 60 in a minute. It's a hard task, Bane. It is hard to beat. You need to watch the UK serial Ghosts. Is that like Cocoa Pops that are evil? Does anyone else here go to sleep with the sound of true crime beside their bed and then complain the next day they can't sleep?
My partner.
Oh, she does?
Oh, mate, she's nuts on it.
Do you listen to it too? You don't have a choice?
Not really, no. When I go to bed, I just turn the TV off.
That's why I'm the best.
She'll be passed out snoring and still be like, can you leave it on?
That's why I'm the
What are you
best.
talking about?
That's why I'm the best man in your relationship.
Yeah.
All great horror and science fiction is based on reality. Yep. I saw that one of the scariest movies once. It started with I do too. That was about a wedding. Okay. Sorry for those that are in a happy situation. Joshy Fawns, guilty Kaz. Yep, well done, mate. I do go to sleep with it, but but I sleep well. That's even scarier, Lauren. That Lauren sleeps like a baby, when she's actually got the sound of crime behind her. I can't believe no one ever covers Ivan Milat.
Oh, yeah.
Other good old war stories. Always been seen it coming out when you're 3 beers in a Friday pay week. Great fun. Then you got the one guy fresh out of training. Yeah, one time in recruit school. Yeah, you can't go back on that one.
The same thing in jiu-jitsu.
Yep. Yep. What's the lowest? What's the lowest?
He's like, man, my last tournament.
What's the lowest belt?
White.
Okay. I hope to earn one of those one day. I'll get choked out with that belt.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Hey, is there anything that you want to bring up? You're our guest of honor tonight, there, Shannon. Is there anything you want to? Is there anything you'd like to say, or bring up? Your wisdom. You and I don't even know how our sort of friendship started, but it actually grew to be bigger than what it was just the relationship between YouTuber, subscriber, Patreon member, member, all those sort of things. I think our conversation just went way longer than it was meant to the first time we spoke, and then that's
we
just been
bounce off each other and what we talk about. We just bounce off each other, so that's good.
Yep, it's a fantastic.
No, I mean, I don't have anything in specific to bring up. Like, I'm just here to ride the wave,
Cool, man. And what's your lady's name?
Wait, were you talking about anything about China tonight? Because I want to ask you about Xi Jinping.
Okay, so for those that don't know, the word on the street, okay, and I've had some communique since I spoke to you this afternoon, was for the last few days, Xi Jinping has not been seen, and there's been information from Indian sources that have recorded really massive, long military convoys with air traffic information saying that there is complete aviation lockdown over certain parts of China. And ultimately, YouTube has got a shitload of videos now that there is a coup that's occurred in China and Xi Jinping hasn't been seen. Now, I've had information from one of my mates that's called up, and he went and did the look at the house arrest and all that sort of stuff, and basically said all of the people that have come out with that have been non-credible sources. So we've got to keep watching. There's something in the wind. Don't know what it is, but don't jump and hook yourself to that too quickly. But the other one is, like we discussed, is also be very careful about wishing something, like being glad when something happens to a leader. Because as we know with Kim Jong-un, his sister is as mad as a cut snake, apparently, a lot worse than him. So the last thing you want to do is wait for one to go, knowing there's something worse that's behind.
Well, it's like, I mean, I might not necessarily have this belief, but some people have said to me in the past that once Saddam Hussein was taken out, things were just worse.
Yeah. Well, that's the same with Gaddafi. When they go back and look at it, and then you find out more and more, it wasn't what he was doing to his people, it was what he'd said to America.
Yeah.
When you stuff with the petrodollar, you get yourself in big trouble.
Well, one thing I was going to say about Xi Jinping as well, like 10 years ago, also, it was something like 10 years ago, he went missing for 2 weeks. No one knew where he was.
Yep.
And I think it was the Washington Post did a story about it, saying that he actually got hit in the back with a chair and he was in hospital for 2 weeks. And that's the reason why he was missing for so long. So who knows?
Wow.
Some people are saying it could be a COVID restriction thing, or I don't know what it could be, but it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting.
And what a better way to flush out rats than to actually pretend there's something wrong for a little while and watch them go, ding dong, the witch is dead, and then go, really? Here I am.
Yeah. Well, they locked up a couple of CCP members recently. That Sun Lee Jun guy, that sentenced him to life in prison for embezzling like $91 million. And then there was a couple of party members that he locked up. And then it was not long after that this all sort of started happening.
Yep. Bane is saying he can't believe we haven't got the demon mic tonight. I'm wondering if it is because there is just so much videos coming out across there, but the algorithms just left me alone tonight. I don't know. I really don't know. Have a lovely evening. Got a 4:30 start, so I'm off tonight. What are you doing, Daz? Are you doing something unholy to that water buffalo? You're not milking the bull, are you? All right, team. Let's get out of here. Remember, team. Okay, what was the time? I know that. I know Special K asked for 8:00 tomorrow night. Okay, but that's because he's actually signing on for his draft tomorrow for Ukraine. I'm joking. I'm being facetious. But that's 300,000 men. Make sure you don't get on the bandwagon too quick and look at them through a disparaging way when, at the end of the day, they're going to be probably chewed up piecemeal. Yeah, and I really feel for the people of the Ukraine that it probably thought we were so close to the end, but now look like they could be taken on a completely fresh onslaught. There's going to be no winners. In winter. Yeah, Kim Jong-un did that a while back.
Like even JP says, this is where they will turn off the pipes.
Yep. And he will. I believe he will. I believe he is going to turn off the pipes. He'll turn off that power and electricity and the gas. I think it's going to happen, and they're going to shit himself. All right, team.
It's going to be pretty wild. Anyway, mate.
Well, thank you very much, Shannon. Let's have another talk in the next couple of days so I can thank you properly. And thank you very much to all of those that have got kids that are coming out of Kapuka, to people that were here for the information, misinformation, entertainment. We're here to provide you with a place to be.
For supporting your kids as well.
For what? What's that one?
So good on you for supporting your kids.
Absolutely.
When they're going through this.
Absolutely. Make them pay for the Victoria Hotel, understanding the money they spend on you is still from the Queen's pay. It's their last pay. Good on everyone. Thanks for your wonderful comments. Chris Davenport, thank you very much, mate, and all the best for you. It's going to be great. 900 would be great tomorrow. Jay reckons 1900 tomorrow. It's a little bit too old. Okay, I tell you what. I'll drop it at 3, Jay. I'll drop it at 3. Otherwise, the entire world is asleep at the same time and misses it completely. Okay? So 3:00 tomorrow, it'll be out. I look forward to your comments and make them creative, like eat your water. Thanks, guys. Thanks, gals. Doesn't matter if you're 5'2". And thank you to Shannon for giving Lauren a break and letting her just sit there for a little while and be entertained with those that she calls home as well. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, good on her. Good on you, mate. Good on everyone else. Have a good night.
No problems. Take it easy. Take it easy.
See you, mate.
See you, mate. Bye. See you later. And ciao. Ciao. It's the dog with the blue tongue. Did you know that? Thanks, Lauren. James Morris, mate, if you could send you a pic of the coffin layout, I think I would love it. Stream the funeral on the internet for overseas relatives. That's awesome.
I've got nothing left.
KP.
And the moon sings
Mate, if you could send, if I could send you a pic of the coffin layout. James, you can send that to me, mate. You can send that to me. And all the best to your dad, mate.
I'm not sure if time
Very, very heartbreaking. I'm sorry you did the typo before and I didn't read it properly. Sorry, buddy.
as you're fading out of sight. You're just a star.
Eat your water. Stay healthy. Oh, it's gold. We're very lucky to have this platform, team. We really are. Good night, Kaz. Don't drink your bath water. Bready. I had a bath with my dog a couple of days ago. It's amazing how a dog doesn't try to jump out when you actually spend some time with it in the bath. Not in an unholy way. Say no to drugs, they'll change your life. They'll get you invited to parties, but those people won't be there for you when you fall. That FaceTime ready. Dogs are fun. They are, Josh. They taste like chicken. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, girls and boys.